No more funding for illegal DEI programs. It means no more funding for transgenderism and wokeness.
And that was, she said, there will be no wokeness here.
Oh, yeah.
Let me explain something to you, because without that wokeness, you might not have that job.
For the longest, women couldn't be in these positions. Imagine you being the press secretary. You know how silly you are? Then y'all got a show full of women that's silly. Y'all women make people reconsider, should women even be doing this? Karoline Leavitt give us life. Y'all fools make us want to turn the corner back.
Let's talk about the fact that Democrats have been labeling President Trump a to democracy for the better half of 10 years. Let's talk about how they have compared him to one of the worst mass in the history of the world, and that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden weaponized the court system and the justice system in this country against Donald Trump in an attempt to imprison him. He sat through a courthouse for 7 weeks this past year, and the Democrats were hoping he would go to jail for it. That is real political that has led to 2 heinous attempts on President Trump's life that, by the grace of God, he was able to escape, and he is here with us today. So yes, President Trump knows a little bit about political because he's experienced it himself. And talking about the tragic realities of war that Liz Cheney and her father, Dick Cheney, have got this country into is not political. It's talking about the reality of the foreign conflicts that the Washington, D.C. establishment have sold out young Americans to for decades.
Behar just crossed a line, and this time, there's no coming back. During a recent episode of The View, Joy Behar stunned audiences with a comment that many are calling outright sexist. Referring to Karoline Leavitt, Donald Trump's 27-year-old press secretary, Behar claimed she was only hired because of her looks. I think she's probably been put in there because, according to Donald Trump, she's a 10, Behar said. The remark left viewers outraged. Not just conservatives, but people across the political spectrum. Why? Because it came from someone who constantly preaches about feminism and empowering women. Behar's statement wasn't just an insult to Leavitt, it was an insult to every woman who has worked hard to earn her position. Critics were quick to call out the hypocrisy. How can someone who claims to champion women reduce a young political strategy? Social media exploded with backlash, with one user summing it up perfectly. Joy Behar accuses Karoline Leavitt of being hired for her looks. Isn't that the exact kind of sexism The View claims to fight against? Transition. But Karoline Leavitt wasn't about to let this slide. Leavitt didn't just defend herself. She turned the tables on The View. When Joy Behar made her sexist remark, many expected Karoline Leavitt to brush it off or avoid confrontation. But that's not what happened. Instead, Leavitt came prepared and fired back with facts, poise, and confidence. She didn't just address the insult, she dismantled it entirely. Let's talk about the fact that Democrats have been labeling President Trump a threat to democracy for years. Leavitt began, shifting the focus to the bigger picture. She pointed out how media rhetoric has fueled hostility toward conservative figures like Trump, even leading to 2 attempts on his life. Her response wasn't just a defense, it was an offense. She exposed how The View uses personal attacks and insults as a way to delegitimize their opponents. By the time she finished speaking, it was clear that she had completely flipped the narrative. Behar looked visibly uncomfortable, and even Whoopi Goldberg seemed unsure of how to respond. Transition, but things were about to get even more heated when Whoopi tried to intervene. Whoopi Goldberg tried to steer the conversation away from Trump. It backfired spectacularly. As soon as Karoline Leavitt started talking about media rhetoric and its real-world consequences, Whoopi Goldberg jumped in, trying to change the subject. She attempted to redirect the conversation toward unrelated topics, but Leavitt wasn't having it. No, please, she interrupted firmly. Let's stay on topic. Leavitt continued by highlighting how false narratives about Trump being a threat to democracy have emboldened extremists and led to dangerous situations. Her refusal to let Whoopi derail the discussion was both refreshing and impactful. It showed that she wasn't intimidated by the panel or their usual tactics of deflection and distraction. Instead of silencing her, Goldberg's interruption only made Leavitt's points stronger, and viewers noticed. Social media lit up with praise for how Leavitt handled herself, with many calling it one of the most powerful moments in recent political debates on television. Transition, but Leavitt wasn't done exposing The View's hypocrisy. Leavitt didn't just defend herself. She exposed The View's double standards. One of the most striking moments in this exchange came when Karoline Leavitt called out The View for its hypocrisy on women's empowerment. She pointed out how the show loves to present itself as a champion of feminism until a conservative woman enters the picture. The View loves to claim they're all about lifting women up, she said. But the second a woman doesn't align with their leftist ideology, they demean her in exactly the way they claim to fight against. This wasn't just an offhand remark. It was a direct hit at The View's pattern of behavior toward conservative women like Kayleigh McEnany and Sarah Huckabee Sanders. By exposing this double standard, Leavitt forced viewers to question whether The View truly stands for women or if their support only extends to those who share their political views. Transition. And then came Whoopi Goldberg's rant about wokeness. Whoopi Goldberg didn't just lose her temper, she lost control of the narrative. At one point during the discussion, Whoopi Goldberg brought up something Karoline Leavitt had said in a previous interview. There will be no wokeness here. This clearly struck a nerve with Goldberg, who launched into a passionate rant about how wokeness is responsible for progress in society. But what she failed to acknowledge is how wokeness has become a divisive ideology that often alienates people rather than uniting them. And so instead of engaging in a meaningful discussion about what wokeness means today, Goldberg resorted to condescension and talking down to Leavitt, as if she didn't understand history or social progress. The irony? By doing so, Goldberg proved exactly why so many people are critical of wokeness. It often comes across as elitist and dismissive of transition, but this wasn't just about one heated exchange. The backlash was growing. This time, The View didn't just face criticism, they faced humiliation. Instead of discrediting Karoline Leavitt as they likely intended, The View ended up discrediting themselves. Clips of Joy Behar's sexist remark and Karoline's powerful responses went viral almost immediately after the episode aired. Social media exploded with criticism of The View, with users from all political backgrounds calling out their blatant bias and hypocrisy. Even those who didn't agree with Leavitt politically admitted that Behar's comment was completely out of line and that Leavitt handled herself with grace and intelligence under pressure. The backlash wasn't just online, it extended into mainstream media coverage as well, with several outlets running headlines about The View's latest controversy and its growing credibility issues. Transition and behind closed doors at ABC. Things were getting even messier. Inside sources reveal that ABC executives are fed up, and Joy Behar might be on thin ice. According to insiders at ABC, the backlash from this incident caught executives completely off guard, and they're not happy about it. One source revealed that executives are starting to question whether keeping Joy Behar on the show is worth the constant PR nightmares she creates with her controversial remarks. While controversy has always been part of The View's brand, there's a fine line between stirring debate and alienating viewers, and this time, they crossed it big time. Transition. But this incident highlights an even bigger issue in media today. This isn't just about one episode, it's about changing perceptions. What makes this incident stand out is the overwhelming support Karoline Leavitt received, even from those who don't align with her politically. Social media was flooded with comments from people who admitted they disagreed with her views, but respected how she handled herself during the heated exchange. Many pointed out that Joy Behar's remarks weren't just offensive to Leavitt, but to all women who have worked hard to achieve success in male-dominated fields. And I quote, "This bipartisan outrage revealed a growing frustration with media outlets like The View, which often claim to champion women's empowerment, but fail to extend that support to conservative women." Even prominent liberal commentators called out Behar, with one writing, "You don't have to agree with Karoline Leavitt to see that reducing her accomplishments to her looks is disgusting." Wow, what a thing that, my Behar mom is to say. But this moment wasn't just a win for Leavitt, it was a wake-up call for viewers tired of the double standards in mainstream media. Transition. But as public support for Leavitt grew, ABC executives were scrambling behind the scenes. Inside sources reveal that ABC executives are fed up, and Joy Behar might be on thin ice. According to insiders at ABC, the backlash from this incident caught executives completely off guard, and they're not happy about it. One source revealed that executives are starting to question whether keeping Joy Behar on the show is worth the constant PR nightmares she creates with her controversial remarks. While controversy has always been part of The View's brand, there's a fine line between stirring debate and alienating viewers. And this time, they crossed it big time. Ratings have already been slipping over the past few years, and incidents like this only accelerate the decline. Advertisers are reportedly uneasy as well, with some questioning whether The View is still a safe platform for their brands. The insider went on to say, "Executives are tired of cleaning up messes like this. They're starting to wonder if it's time for a major shakeup. Could this mean Joy Behar's days on The View are numbered?" In transition. But this isn't just about one host. This is a part of a much larger issue. The controversy highlights a pattern we've seen time and time again. What happened to Karoline Leavitt on The View isn't an isolated incident. It's part of a broader trend in how conservative women are treated by mainstream media. From Kayleigh McEnany to Sarah Huckabee Sanders to Elise Stefanik, we've seen countless examples of young, articulate conservative women being dismissed, insulted, or outright discredited simply because of their political beliefs. So, media outlets like The View often claim to support women's empowerment, but seem unwilling to extend that support to women who don't align with their ideology. Instead of engaging in meaningful debate or acknowledging their accomplishments, they resort to personal attacks and condescending remarks. This double standard doesn't just hurt the individuals targeted, it undermines the very principles of feminism and equality that these outlets claim to uphold. The backlash against The View shows that audiences are starting to see through this hypocrisy, and they're not staying silent anymore. Karoline Leavitt didn't just defend herself against The View. She exposed their hypocrisy and turned their attack into an opportunity to highlight larger issues in media today. This isn't just about one episode or one host, it's about how conservative voices, especially women, are treated in spaces that claim to value diversity and empowerment. With ABC scrambling for damage control and viewers calling for accountability, could this be the moment that forces The View to change its ways? Or will they double down on their toxic tactics? One thing is clear, Karoline Leavitt walked away stronger than ever, and The View may never recover from this.